listen to what he has to say, but also formulate, as he speaks, formulate your questions, because we want this as well to be a conversation on how this makes a difference to you in your classroom.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Murray, for your introduction. When I'm at school, I always like to start with a definition of whatever topic I'm going to introduce to my children. And it's important for a number of reasons, because we can't assume that everyone knows, even though it is in the public domain, we can't assume that everyone knows what reparations is. So that's where we'll start off from today. Reparations, we hear it all the time. It comes from the word repair. And the idea is that damage inflicted upon persons of African descent and indigenous persons within this region must be amended. It must be repaired in some way. We must repair the fracture. When we look at the figures, Professor Mabalozi, I remember, advanced some figures. He said that 6 million Africans were brought from Africa to this region. And at emancipation, there were 600,000. 6 million brought here, 600,000 at emancipation. So it takes no stretch of imagination to imagine and to figure out what went wrong. In terms of the indigenous people within the region as well, I think the figures last time I heard was about 30,000, and the majority I think of those will be in Dominica. And all of us have suffered tremendously. Now, reparations is a concept which, when people hear it, you know, people talk about, people immediately what comes to people's mind. And this has been promoted deliberately. That is about a payday. It's not about a payday, even though that may be part of the equation. But reparations is a very extensive, far-reaching proposal and concept. Reparations is grounded in what we call reparatory justice, and the different forms of justice: spiritual justice, religious justice, economic justice. But the idea is that the injustices meted out to persons of African descent and indigenous people in this region, they must be corrected, they must be repaired. Because on emancipation, the planter class, the plantee, the whites in the society, were paid 20 million pounds. 20 million pounds. And I think if you fast forward that to today's money, that would be something like 76 million or 76, I think 76 billion pounds. And that money was paid because they lost their so-called property, which were our ancestors. And we were turned out into a cold, harsh world, and we know that emancipation was not emancipation. Emancipation, the process then started in 1838, or continued in 1838, and it did not end. Up until now, we're still struggling with the effects of that process. And that for another 100 years, blacks struggled to get an equal footing in the society, or close enough to an equal footing. So that in 1937, we had a rebellion in this country, and all across the Caribbean. 1930s was a very turbulent period within the Caribbean. In 1876 in Barbados, we had a rebellion called the Confederate Reds. And that was an post-emancipation period. So it shows that we were still struggling after being turned out. No money, no home, no clothes. And in particularly in Barbados, it was very dreadful, because they said at one point in time that each and every square foot of Barbados a plantation was on. So therefore there were no hills, There was no extra land like in the other large territories like Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad, for persons to go and squat on. So therefore we had to return to the plantation to work. And therefore we were exploited again and again and again. And different pieces of legislation came into effect immediately after emancipation. And when we look at the organizations which are in place now, like the Royal Barbados Police Force, that was set up for a reason. It was not set up to protect, reassure, as they tell it. It was set up to protect private property of the clans and blacks. And we know, many of us who are from the working class, we can see the actions of the police, and we know that still continues. Because how they deal with the person of the upper class in society, the whites, and the person who have money, is different to how they deal with us from the communities and the villages. So the rush to get legislation in place was to protect private property, those who had. We did not have. So the call today, and reparation is not a new concept, just let me say that. It has its origins going back, I think, to the 19th century. And that struggle has continued to the extent where we are now revitalizing ourselves to drive the final nail in the coffin. Reparations has a history. It is not something that is peculiar to African persons. People talk about remoteness. Oh, slavery was long ago, so therefore that has no bearing on what happens now. It's not so. If you watch, and if you've been to the lectures with Professor Mabalozi, and this is his book, Britain's Black Death, and everybody should try to get a copy of it. Professor Beckles talks about the effects of slavery, the mental conditioning, which we're still afflicted with. You know it as the Village syndrome. He talks about the diabetes, chronic, the hypertension, being fed salted pork, salt fish, starches, poor quality food, being placed in stressful situations where you could die at any moment, where you're tortured, where your children are taken away from your birth, where you're constantly insulted and constantly made to feel that you're less than a human being, less than an animal actually. And those conditions created a genetic occurrence which has affected us to this day. And Professor Beckles goes into a lot of detail. He spoke about the research at the university now is doing in terms of medication which has been tested not on blacks but on whites. That is not working on a person with African descent, the medication for hypertension and diabetes. And that medication is not working to correct the deficiencies in terms of these diseases. There's something called ethnomedicine. And a lot of the products which we get down here as medicine are not tested on us, they're tested on a person of other races. So that has its origins in slavery. We may not see it. That has its origins in slavery. And one of the things in your 10-point plan speaks to that. This 10-point plan is available on the internet. You can draw it up anytime, any person. You can often get copies. And the idea is that where we have suffered injustices, the persons who are responsible must be held accountable. And it is not only the Caribbean, there are reparations movements all over the world. And as Couture was speaking earlier, we must pay homage to the Rastafari community who have been persistent in their call for reparations over the years. When we tend to look down the Rastafari community as little naughty-headed boys, as we like to say it. The Rastafari community was there, the Rastafari community was strident, the Rastafari community called for repatriation, reparations for persons of African descent. And the Rastafari community took the lead in this regard in the Caribbean. We are now coming on board, but better late than never. So, there are a number of cases Haiti is one of the most prominent in the Caribbean. And Haiti gained independence, those of you who may not know, in 1804. And the powers that be, the British, the French, and Spanish, Haiti overthrew them out, kicked them out of the country. And the powers came together, the European powers, and said, if you want to be recognized, we're going to blockade your ports. We're going to reinstate you unless you find a way to pay us for all those enslaved persons that you freed in 1804. The first black country in this hemisphere to do that. To the extent where if any other person, the whole Caribbean and the Americas was still in slavery. So if you had left your territory, if you were able to get away from your territory, go to Haiti, and as long as you landed on Haitian soil, you were free. That was written in the Haitian Constitution. So we owe Haiti a great debt. We tend to look down Haiti as a place where God will pay, as we like to say, but that is a lot of history, we owe Haiti so much we don't even know. There was a famous case in Jamaica, and I heard this from Professor Beckles, where some enslaved person got away from Jamaica, stole a boat, got to Haiti, and the president at the time, Pétion, the governor of Jamaica appealed to the Haitian governor, Pétion, and told him, well, we need our property back. And Pétion's reply was, well, the ship that they came on is in the harbor. You can come get it. But these persons who land on Haitian soil are citizens, and they're not coming back. That was Haiti's debt. That was Haiti's contribution to us. And nowadays, we have, it pains me to see how in CARICOM we have dealt with Haiti. We owe Haiti so much. But Haiti was made to pay reparations to France in order to be recognized. The United States turned its back on it. France, all the major powers, they refused to trade. And you could not exist in an environment with such hostility. So therefore, the Haitian cabinet took the decision at the time, in 1825, to agree to pay France reparations. So they sent down their accountants, they went through the country, and they made a valuation of the persons, and I think there were 4 cabinet ministers at the time sitting in the Haitian cabinet, and they too were valued as ex-slaves. And then when they done, they were a huge sum, and Haiti was supposed to pay this debt in gold francs. That debt lasted 123 years, from 1825, and it was not paid until 1948. So we can understand why Haiti is the way it is. In addition to that, there were numerous invasions by the United States, occupations. They settled there, exploited the people. So when you see Haiti, and Haiti, I don't believe that there's a country, a white country, which can withstand that kind of bombardment and still exist. So that shows you our resilience as people of African descent. You go to Haiti, you can see the people are very, very creative. They have little, but they exist, and they get through with what they have. And that is one of the most famous cases. So Haiti was brought to its knees and still struggling to get back to itself. We have the cases where the North American Indians were paid sums, different ethnic groups within North America were paid money because of the British settlers' treatment of them. We have the case of the Japanese interned in the Second World War. Families were broken up because they thought they were a threat to the United States, and they were paid after the war. We have the case of the Maori Indians in New Zealand who were paid for the British treatment of them, New Zealanders. We have the case too where the Jews, and we hear this all the time, the Jewish Holocaust, were paid. None of those cases was there any charge of remoteness. We tend to say, oh, slavery was a long time ago. How are you going to do this? We tend to shoot ourselves in the foot before we even move on. Instead of looking for ways how we can repair the damage, we tend to say, oh, it can't be done. That's a self-defeating mentality, and we need to get over it. International law does not recognize historical remoteness. International law says that those persons who have committed crimes against humanity, of which slavery is recognized as one, those persons must be made to make amends. So when we call for reparations today, in this 10-point plan, and there are some things that we can add on. In this 10-point plan, it wasn't mentioned. The state of Israel has a fund. How reparation works is that it's paid into a fund. And people access this fund to do things within Israel. So they always have money coming in. Up to this day, Germany is still paying reparations. Different persons around. They're handing out companies which were involved in the Holocaust. IBM was one of the biggest ones. All the records are there. Professor Beckles has done extensive research. He's been, every summer he's in England doing research. And he can tell you all the records are there. It tells you about the debates in the House of Assembly. It tells you what the companies which were involved. So there's nothing hidden. Everything is there. So we have a very available stack of evidence which we can use. And we know that those countries which have participated in our exploitation, they have a case to answer. It's not if, but when. So, as young persons whose minds we are molding every day, this is going to be on the agenda for some time to come. Sometimes it goes away. That is down, it never goes away. And we have to prepare our young people to take on the mantle of leadership within the next couple of years. Because it's going to be their struggle. Maybe the part of this round. So we have to make them aware of what is theirs, of what they have to fight for. So when we look through this 10-point plan, and this is just a proposal, I'm sure there are other things that we can come up with. This is not exhaustive. We have a duty to educate each and every barrier, because there are a lot of misconceptions, there's a lot of nonsense quite frankly floating around here. I watched a debate at Boston University in the United States a couple of years ago, and the reparations debate was reduced to a paycheck. That's not what reparations is about. Reparations are about return of the land. Land is the base of independence. Artifacts, technology transfers, health, all those things. And it is our duty to see that this happens, if not in our lifetime, in our children's lifetime. Thank you.